Hello, welcome, Cabbage here. In War of the Visions, I wanted to do a reaction video to ReadyPlayerWill's post on Reddit from a couple days ago. ReadyPlayerWill is one of the best minds in the universe of War of the Visions, so I respect him very much. And then he wrote this long thing on Reddit in response to kind of the discontent that's been on the Reddit recently. But actually, pretty much everything he says is kind of like, I don't know, it's like basic stuff that everybody should understand. Not only about just War of the Visions, but mobile games in general. I think if everybody knew all of this before even starting a mobile game, there would be a lot more happy gamers out there. I certainly wish I knew this 8 years ago or whatever it was. And then I kind of wanted to make a video kind of responding to the discontent myself, but I could never really pull the trigger. My intent is always to calm people down, but my reputation has gotten to a place where people will just emotionally react kind of in a knee-jerk way to whatever I say. But if I use ReadyPlayerWill's integrity kind of like as a battering ram to get through what I want to say, then that kind of gives me like a structure to work with, and then I can feel good about making this video. However, I do not have permission from ReadyPlayerWill to make this. I did contact him on Reddit, but he hasn't gotten back to me. ReadyPlayerWill, if you're watching this and you don't like this, say the word and I will take it down. Alright, but let's start reading. I would like to show my face, but it's dark outside. But what I'll do is that I'll put up this little guy when it's me talking. It's not when I'm reading ReadyPlayerWill. I don't want people to misinterpret, like who's saying what. What I say often gets misrepresented or misinterpreted, so I know what it feels like. Alright, but anyway, title. Some personal thoughts on War of the Visions, how it affects you. Afternoon Vision fans, ReadyPlayerWill here with a somewhat rare post about my view of the state of the game, how to maximize your enjoyment of it, given some perspective on what value is in the game. All of this in response to some of the sentiment I've seen here regarding Scummy, and the overall outlook at some of the content creators and how they interact with their fan base. Fine. For those not familiar with who I am, just for some context, I'm part of the number 2 guild, Lukavi, a day 1 player, brave Xvius veteran, YouTube content creator with 1.3k subs, and a Kraken tier player in terms of resources and time I put into the game. So yeah, going back to when I said that ReadyPlayerWill was one of the best minds in the universe of the game, that's both in terms of like approaching the game, having like a healthy outlook on how to kind of work within it, how to play it, how to enjoy it, but also just like he's good at the game. He's in a very strong guild, and then the videos that he puts out of like analysis of the meta or the maps or whatever are very insightful. I highly recommend everybody checks those out. And then I'm glad that he pointed out the time investment in regards to being a Kraken. Just like how there's a gap between paid and then free users, there's also a gap between folks that put in the time and then folks that don't. And then there must be a gap, or else why would people spend, or why would people put in the time? Alright, next. Identify what is fun in this game for you. This is similar to something that I say once in a while, and that is to find the fun in the game. When I talk about it, you know, there's so many modes in the game. We don't have to all play all of them. We can, you know, select the ones that appeal to us personally. Alright, but getting back to reading. At the end of the day, this is the number one thing you need to identify, as there are massive trickle-down effects from this regarding how you approach the game. There's a myriad of different types of content in War of the Visions, ranging from guild battle and arena to raid tower selection quests, and all of them have semi-unique attributes about them in terms of what the level of competition is, where you stand in it, where you want to be in it, what the bare minimum is necessary in order to achieve satisfaction with it. Right, this is related to my point about just a variety of game modes. And then in addition to knowing like what modes you really enjoy playing or what are really worth playing for you, it's knowing what kind of player you are. And with mobile games, it's the biggest thing to identify is to know like at what pace you want to play. And that's where spending comes in. If you're free to play, you're going to be playing slower. You're going to have slower game advancement than folks that play. And then the whales, they will progress faster. People think that when you put money into the game, you're just getting more characters or whatever. But what you're really buying is speed. Faster account growth, faster clears of hard content. And then in terms of this game, faster leveling of your guys. And then kind of leveling of more guys. But if you're just starting out, it can be hard to know like what kind of player you are. And so you'll go to a place like Reddit and then see like what is the norm, and then maybe try to fit in with that. Sometimes that can lead in a bad direction. Sometimes that can lead to burnout. Alright, back to reading. Once you've been able to identify your goals in the game as to what you enjoy the most, you can start making some additional decisions about where you want to allocate your resources, namely Vision Ore. Okay? Here, GUMI'S business model, FOMO. I don't know if I agree with this. It's kind of related to the pay-to-win idea, but like War of the Visions is very focused on PvP, and then getting people interested in PvP, and then, you know, pull in the new stuff or building the new stuff for that. But the thing is, there's still no unique rewards for PvP. So when people say that the game is pay to win, I ask them, win what? Because it's just like a badge, or like non-unique rewards, which frankly are not even that good. So this fear of missing out, I feel like it comes more from the community than from the game itself. In another video, I've called it community power creep. One really good example of this was like the first raid. People were like, oh, you gotta make +5 of the Alexandrite ring or you suck. And so a ton of people went very hard on that raid and then got burnt out and quit. Those were people that were victims of community power creep, or FOMO created by the community. Alright, but let's go back to reading. Let's see what ReadyPlayerWill's says about the business model. The reason why the former section is important is because GUMI capitalizes on your fear of missing out. It's one of the reasons why they run so many limited units and global exclusive units as well. Okay, it's me again. I wonder if this is why, or I wonder if it has anything to do with people saying that they're going to skip all standard pool units because they think they're going to pull them naturally, randomly. The concept of FOMO is that they're betting on you saying, oh man, this is a scarce resource, I need to get it, so I don't regret not having it later, which is a business and marketing 101 tactic, and units and vision cards are not cheap, we obviously know this. Again, I don't know, maybe for vision cards, because those are nice. But like units, again, it's like, what unit do you need to beat any high level PvE? And then again, what is the point of doing well in PvP? I feel one of the biggest drivers of getting folks to pull is the nostalgia factor for the units. And I think that's part of the reason why we didn't see very many kind of numbered Final Fantasy units in the standard pool, like we saw with Brave Exvius. By making all of the numbered characters collaboration units, that's how you get people to pull, because they're not easily gettable otherwise. But my Zen approach to the game, it's kind of designed to fight against FOMO, to make it as much of a non-factor in my decisions as possible. For units, I can resist this pretty well because I'm more interested in what the units can do rather than like who they are. Not even nostalgia is gonna, you know, swing me very often. It did for Kine, but that's kind of an exception. And then also, this also goes for any game that I play, but like top tier, easy to use, super hyped meta attackers, I don't really enjoy using them either because I feel like they're easy mode. I enjoy the tricky units. But the thing about the tricky units is that if I don't get them, I don't miss them at all. I feel a little bit more FOMO for the farmable stuff, to be honest. I don't like to miss the farmable stuff, but if I'm not in the mood to, you know, I'll just put it off and then I'll get it the next time around, knowing that it'll still be good that next time. But yeah, vision cards, I do kind of feel the most amount of FOMO. Alright, moving on with the reading. This is why it's so critical to outline what kind of content you want to do and what you want to invest in. We'll take Halloween Frederica as an example here. Some questions you need to ask are, 1. Where do you intend on using her? If PvP, where am I competitively in the scheme of the game? 3. If competitive guild, do I have the vision card and equipment resources to maximize what she's good at? And then 4. If I have limited vision or resources and a cap on my spending, are there alternate units coming out that I need those resources for instead? I said alternate. Whoops, that's alternative. Point 3, I think, is the most important point. And then this applies to everybody, regardless of, like, how strong their account is. It's kind of related to being upset about too many limited unit releases. Not only are we unable to get everything, we don't need or want everything because we don't have the setup for everything. And so even if they, throw a bunch of limited or seasonal or fest units at us, it should be easy to skip the folks that don't match our account. Again, we're not in the early days where we need to seriously consider everything that comes out. We can kind of compartmentalize our need, just go for the stuff that really matches our account. Alright, continuing. Things of that nature. This game is not made to be able to max every character casually. It is not only an impeccably large amount of money to do so, but also a remarkably large amount of time as well, to get them into usable shape, in addition to just general testing and mock battles you need to do to make sure they function as intended. Yes, this is right. Going back to the speed at which folks want to play, the difference in speed between free-to-play and then pay-to-play players. And then this is also related to kind of knowing yourself as a player. You have to find the balance between willingness to spend and then pace of progression. And then if you can't find a balance, if you can't resolve your spending limit with your ideal pace of play, then it might be time to move on from the game, because again, you're going to be one of the unhappy players. Okay, next topic. What can we as fans do to change the model? Unfortunately, not much. I agree with this. Really, if you want to change the model, if you want to change the business model of these mobile games, or just, wipe them from the face of the earth and all we have are MMOs and console games, we have to change the laws. It's the only way. So contact your local representative to make some new laws, or run for office yourself. I'm afraid that's the only way. I'm sorry for the defeatist attitude, but that's the truth of it. The global community is extremely spread out, that making a cohesive movement that would influence GUMI'S business model is extremely unlikely. Not only is global segregated from JP, but the global fans are spread out across different platforms. This subreddit is like 5% exposure of the global fan base. Each content creator has their own set of followers whom they influence. I'll poke my head in here. I don't like this word, influence. I don't want to think that I am influencing anyone. I prefer inform. I'm an informer. Discords of guilds are spread out and unique in their outreach. Collectively making an organized movement to simply stop spending or playing the game altogether is extremely unlikely, particularly because of the gacha business model in general, that 20% of the fans make up 80% of the revenue. Right, this is cabbage again here. Even if Global could successfully boycott, what would they demand? I feel like even with their demands, they are really spread out. I think there's been one successful global outrage, and that was over Valentine Salia. And then, yeah, she got the new global exclusive costume. What percentage of players did that actually satisfy? And then going back to the ways that, all the different ways that global folks are discontent, all of the complaints they have, I have heard, and have been hearing them for nearly a decade, and yet things are still the same. So people that are getting hung up on these things are really just banging their head against a wall with no hope of making any change. Alright, back to reading. So even if the 80% of fans stop playing the game, the revenue stream to GUMI from the 20% of spenders remains relatively unchanged, and thus their decision-making relatively unchanged. This is why it's so important to manage your own expectations of value, where you can allocate your time and money, and accepting the state of the game as it is and getting the most of what you want to do with it. Right, this is about working within the system, picking fights that you can win. This is another couple points that I bring up a lot. Next topic, that doesn't mean give up. I'm also not sitting here advocating to do nothing. The process of identifying their business model and how to fit into it so that your FOMO doesn't win and make you spend is a form of pushback, as hopefully people will be more mindful with their spending after reading this. It is a form of pushback, but it's sneaky, and not everybody recognizes this. And in this sense, I'm kind of the biggest fighter of the system. I never pull to the ceiling. I set personal limits for myself. I just didn't touch the cost 100 game for the first year and a half when they were really trying to push that. And that was me working within the system, so I was still able to very much enjoy the game, get what I want, and then also not be put over a barrel by the luck part of the game. Leaving poor ratings on the App Store is another form of protest. Yes, I agree with this. This is a legitimate way to do this, and from what I hear, it's one of the more direct ways to contact them. There's also an in-game way. You can go to the settings menu or something. There's a way to send some communication that way, so that's another good way. Reddit is great if you want to just shout in a circle. Maybe that would be therapeutic for you, but I wouldn't expect very much to happen from there. Alright, back to reading. All of those actions aren't meaningless even if they don't actively change the business model. It helps rein GUMI'S propensity for how aggressive they can be, helps newer players from falling into the spending trap, and hopefully gives some personal ethical satisfaction as well, that you can sleep at night thinking I'm not part of the problem, which is important for your mindset. Right, the how aggressive GUMI can be. This is another tale as old as time, but it's a push and pull between the users and the developers. Users that were expecting the first anniversary medals to become the new norm were showing how green they were. And then thinking I'm not part of the problem. I'm not sure if I understand what this is. I don't know who are part of the problem. I know who are part of the problem. They are the people that, stir up, people, keep people angry about stuff that does not matter. It hurts players' trust in the game, and so hurts spending, and so hurts the future of the game. And then we get less banners, less updates, less rewards. I don't think that's what he means, however. Alright, next topic. What if I'm not having fun anymore? Then quit. Yes, I agree with this. I mean it not as a GTFO if you don't like it, but because I know the number one reason why people stick around, even if they don't enjoy the game anymore, is due to something as the sunk cost fallacy. Okay. I wonder if sunk cost fallacy is something that is so sticky. I feel like another really big factor is just inertia. Like sometimes the easy thing to do is just to keep working hard, because change is even harder. Back to reading, that so many people think I've spent so much time and money, if I leave now, it's all for nothing. That isn't the case at all. You paid for entertainment. Yes, this is a super important point here. You're paying for the moment, and you're paying for the memories, just like any kind of entertainment, or travel, I would say. It's like when you stop, your Netflix subscription or something. Was it a waste, because you don't have it anymore? I don't think so. You have the memories of all of the movies that you watched, and then you had the entertainment in the moment. You paid for entertainment, you were entertained, and the resources you collected in-game will diminish over time. That money you spent on Auguries a year ago is gone, and the game balance has far pushed her past viability now. Some people would argue with that. This is the actual definition of power creep, and in gacha games, the power creep never stops. Yes, I've said in my What is Power Creep video, power creep is neither good nor bad. It is just there. It's just the pace that matters. Power creep that is too fast is no good. It kind of asks too much of the player. Power creep that is too slow does not challenge the player enough, so yeah, it is a necessary thing. As part of that business model, GUMI needs to constantly push forward new characters and vision cards that create relative strength so that it incentivizes people to spend to get something better than they currently have. But the reality is over time you get diminished returns on what you originally spent. I feel like in the early part of the game this was true because we weren't focused on elements. But now that we are focused on elements, if we get like a strong earth unit, that doesn't make, fire units any worse. We'll get to a point where every element is fleshed out enough that you'll start to, power creep, like the new Earth unit released will power creep another Earth unit that was older. But we're not quite at that point yet. It's also extremely difficult to just say I'm going to stop all my spending habits and be free to play, as that typically is at odds with how gambling editions work in the first place. If you struggle to manage resources right now, curbing that habit once it's too far gone is almost impossible, as it is with any addiction. I am not well versed in addiction, so I can't really speak to it. But for anyone, whether they suffer from addiction or addiction tendencies or not, to go free to play means that you're pace of progression is going to slow a lot, and some people are not going to be able to adjust to that. Alright, next topic, what should I do next? If we are truly at a crossroads, now is the time to reevaluate where you stand in the game. I've talked about this too before. Kind of every major event in a mobile game, whether it's like a new unit form, or it's a new type of hatcher, like a fest hatcher, or like a new meta-defining unit, that is a crossroads for every player. And then every player needs to sort of sit down and investigate their feelings, how they feel about this new change, and then how maybe it would affect their future with the game. Crossroads are going to be different for different people. For me, with Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, it was a 100% Moogle, which sounds stupid by itself, just isolated, but there was a bunch of stuff leading up to that. That was the last straw that broke the back. Whether or not the game is negatively influencing your life, whether you're slipping into gambling or spending habits you weren't formerly in a very short period of time, we're going to get more limited units in the Final Fantasy 15 and Christmas units. This period of limited units has been going on since last Halloween. It's been a solid year. I don't know why people suddenly have been getting upset about it, but it's a thing. It should be easier to skip this because we are kind of focusing more on elements these days. And cyclically, it's not going to stop. We're going to have additional seasonal events, 2-year anniversary, more global exclusive units to force us to pull. It will not stop. Being cognizant of everything I've said should help you make the decision that's right for you. Force, that's an interesting word here. Nobody should feel forced to do anything. The only time we're going to feel forced is when they release really high difficulty PvE, where you need a specific unit or a certain vision card in order to beat it. Until then, it's all just community FOMO, community power creep, nostalgia that's going to be driving our pulls. Okay, last paragraph. Hopefully this post was insightful. I don't have an invested interest or bias either way towards the player base. I make content because I personally enjoy the mechanics of the game and the theory crafting that goes on, and I learn a ton from the research I do. I could have written this word for word. Folks have probably noticed that I like to keep some distance between myself and the community. Some people say that the best part of the game is the community. I'm sorry, but for me the best part of the game is the game. And I am on neither the user side nor the developer side. I am on the game side, and I want the game to be successful so that I can play it for years because I do enjoy it that much. And I like teaching and helping people to understand it more since it's a complex system with some mechanics that don't have the exposure they should. Yeah, look at me tripping over Critical earlier this week. And in my opinion, teaching and highlighting these things helps enhance the player experience by maximizing their units, VCs, and equipment, and getting more value for the time and money they put into it. Yeah, this kind of explains why I do YouTube as well. This is a hardcore game in a lot of ways, in terms of the systems, and then like the menu management, and then also playing the battles themselves. And I'm seeing a trend in mobile games where they're becoming more and more casual. It's like that's where the money is the casual players. Hardcore players are not, I don't know if they're shrinking or not, but they started as a niche audience and they've stayed that way. But yeah, because I do appreciate the game so much, I do want it to succeed, which is why I make the videos I do. I don't get paid for my YouTube work, and in a whole year of making videos, will never ever find a video where I've said like, subscribe, and upvote. I legitimately don't care so long as the player base is happy and maximizing their interactions with the game. For my part, I don't care a whit about my personal reputation. Hopefully I haven't damaged anyone's enjoyment of the game. That's my #1 concern. Okay, so that was ReadyPlayerWill's post. I agreed with a lot of it. A lot of it is parallel to what I've been saying for the last 2 years at least. And yeah, again, this is stuff that everybody should know going into mobile games. We'll see if this has any long-term effect on the community. Alright, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again. Take care.